Good morning. I'm back from getting feed, and I had a thought to share this morning, so I thought I would do that. No one realizes how powerful their words are, how powerful their agreement is, or how powerful their spirit is. You can't know how powerful it is because God hasn't told you the extent of it. And I'm gonna be 50 here in a couple of months, and so my life is the proverbial half over. And there's a statement. Somebody said this. He said, "Youth is wasted on the young," is like this famous statement. I don't think youth is wasted on the young. History, that's what he said. History is wasted on the young. Because history doesn't have any clout for you unless you have lived and realized that your history matters. So, I'm collecting my thoughts here. There is a concept of your words are speaking from your history. Your knowing is speaking from your experience. And in America, the culture glorifies youth and beauty and attractiveness and sexual prowess, and very vain things are glorified in the United States. I would say as a whole, that's a bane of humanity sort of, overlaying issue in every country. But I can only speak for America because I live here. So it would not be fair of me to tell the Canadians, oh, you have all the same problems we do, because I don't live there. But I can speak to what I know, therefore my history matters. And I was speaking last night to a buddy about my history, my knowings, my gnosis of history, and this concept of isekai, having previous life memories or gnosises about other time, other places, things like that, has flavored who and what I am, because that's my history. And although you might not know where you've been throughout all of your astral travels, or whatever you want to call them, where your spirit has been, where God has put you, what stars you visited or something like that, it still affects you. You still have the DNA, which you could call this like your avatar or your car, right? We use this image in our discussions, Buddy and I, about vehicles. Your body is your car, and your mind, more specifically your mind, is your car. Because we would talk about the House of Jen, the DID system, as he loved the whole car full of them. It didn't matter who was in the driver's seat. He loved the vehicle full of his 25 wives in the DID system. And the power of words mattered very much, because he would say, I love you. And when he said, I love you, whatever altar was out would know that meant he loved the House of Jen. It was not a singular I love you. It was a I love all of you. I see you and I love all of you. And this is something very important. I love all of you. I'm committed to all of you. 100% committed to loving you. And going back to that original statement, we don't know the full extent of what our authority and our words do. And last night, Father showed me something very profound. And I am someone that understands the ranks and the file and the places of authority that people have as Father shows me that. And I know my authority and I know my role for him to some extent. I don't know it all, of course. I'm not trying to say that I know it all, but I do know he has shared with me what my agreement with him does and what my agreement with my husband does. And of course, every bit of knowledge is added on to because it's a history, it's a story. You're living out not a timeline, but a storyline. And that is a beautiful concept, that you are living out this storyline. And I was showing Buddy last night this concept of a cake on a platter. Say your wedding cake is if you were to use a word picture and say my marriage is a wedding cake on a beautiful platter, this beautiful silver platter, this beautiful gold platter would be even better. So if the platter is one level of awareness in all the realms and all the dimensions, the platter could say, wow, this is a heavy cake. Oh, the weight of the world is on me. The platter doesn't know that it's a gold platter. It just knows the weight of the cake. And each layer of the cake is another layer of awareness until you have the bakery and you have the perspective of the chef, of the baker, the master chef, the master craftsman, the master pastry chef that made the cake. And his perspective, the master craftsman, his perspective of the cake is very different than the perspective that the cake has. The cake is, on the plate, and it's grateful for the plate because the plate is holding it and it's not falling on the floor in this sort of word story.
Hey, Mom.
Hold on one second. Miriam. So the baker has a very different perspective of the cake and of the platter and of the table that it's on and of the room and of the bakery than the cake could possibly have awareness of. Now, let's say that the cake layers are realms of authority. Let's take it to a spiritual parable. Layer number 1, the platter, is the physical world. And no matter what that beautiful platter is made out of, if that person's knowing is that they are a platter and they are in the physical realm and they have a job and they have a wife and they have kids and they have a woman, I would be her husband, or they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or they have a broken car, or they have poverty, or they have wealth, or they know that physical realm, and that is what they are bearing witness to for the baker. Very important. That's the grounding of the whole cake, right? Then there are people like Jen and the House of Jen, where there's 25 altars plus however many in the nursery, the littles and the babies. Father jokingly said, you have 144,000. We never did get an actual number of how many altars were in the system, and I'm integrated now. So that number doesn't matter anymore, but imagine the whole household of Jen being the cake on top of the platter of gold, which is Buddy. He sees the physical world. He witnesses the physical world in a way that's different than she did. He sees the day-to-day, in and out, gritty, nitty, commitment level, the one-on-one in the physical relationship between people, the interaction between, God saved you from a car accident, bearing witness and seeing those things, whereas Jen was like the whole cake with all those altars. And I gave him the analogy of she wasn't just a cake, she was like a raisin cake. So if you put raisins in a cake, what happens? All the altars as raisins or stars in the universe, they're all through the whole cake. And the chef has full capacity to put more raisins on the outside of the cake or more into the batter. But what happened was the household of Jen had all these altars that were in all the different layers. So perhaps you could think of Jen as the whole cake, the house of Jen, and then each altar, like Isis being with her status in the system being on the top level of the cake, and the littles being on the very bottom with not as much awareness in that stratosphere. So Nofith would have been right on the platter, but having access to the whole constellation of the cake of raisins. And so there was always this miscommunication between the house of Jen and many people, especially Buddy, because she would be talking about the whole cake in a conversation. And he would be talking about the platter. He would be talking about the foundation, talking about the anchoring, solidifying, gravitation part. And so vocabulary between the raisins in the cake and the platter, the actual communication had a whole bunch of cross wires, because you've got the raisins in the cake with all of these different layers of information in the cake trying to communicate to the earth realm without an awareness or a comprehension of the earth realm. So it's that Mars and, women are from Venus and men are from Mars was literally the story of our life. And now we are learning to communicate because I am more grounded. I understand he is my grounding force. I have a completely different understanding of what the House of Jen was experiencing because I have the whole cake. I'm more like the baker standing back and looking at the whole cake. I am more like that. I'm not the head baker, but I'm more like the chef's perspective. I can look at the platter and I can look at the cake. And I can say, Raisin Charlie is on this level and she understood this and she had this role in the household of Jen. Okay? So now take that whole concept of a platter, the cake with the raisins, the differing elements of the household of Jen, the miscommunication, and now take that to yourself. Maybe you don't have DID. Maybe you need a platter concept. Maybe you need grounding. Maybe you need to get your feet on solid ground and really get to know yourself, because the axiom has to be in order. The mathematical equation of relationships has to be in the correct order of operations, or the equation will not math. So you must know yourself. Know thyself. First and foremost, you must know you. Because if you don't know yourself, then you won't find your misconceptions. You won't be able to examine them. Second, you must know what God you believe in. Because that is the yoke between you and the spirit. That is the yoke between you and your divinity authority. That is the quantum entanglement of your spirit with God's spirit. And it is very important to be worshiping the right God. It is easy to worship money. It is easy to worship the lottery or an addiction or coffee or cigarettes. What are you worshiping? And by worship, I mean focusing your attention on. I don't mean that you're literally like bowing down and praying to an idol that's a cigarette, okay? There's varying levels. Everything's on a continuum. But when you say, I worship the Most High God, I worship the Creator of all things, I worship El Elyon, the Most High, I worship the man in the middle of this circle, I worship the one God, I have put my authority in the agreement between me and the Most High God. And all dominion and authority comes from that place. So therefore, now I'm the wedding topper. I'm in that position where I know my foundation of who I am. I know my story. And I know the reasons. And I know my God. So I know myself very, very well. And I can look myself in the mirror and say, Jenna, how come you were angry about that? What is it really? And I can go very quickly to the foundational level and say, I felt rejection there. What's rejection? That makes sadness. That makes depression. That's going to make loneliness. That's going to push an addiction. I can quickly see these things in myself because Jen in the house of Jen spent 49 years working it out, plus all the other history. So, my authority is in the fact that I know myself and I know what I'm yoked to, therefore the yoke is defined for me. So it will not matter what demonic force tries to approach me. It's all under me. I'm standing on top of it. Whereas someone who says, I worship whatever their name is for God, if they don't have the concept of the Most High God, the head of the household of God, in my Father's house are many mansions. Psalm 82, God stood in the council of the gods, and the first commandment, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul and your spirit. Your household is under the household of the one God. And the Holy Spirit, I see the Holy Spirit as like the waters in the ocean or the air that God is breathing. Is the air I'm breathing me? Yes and no. So this concept is above the concept of the Trinity. This is where the apex, the top of the pyramid of the triangle is. The God. And when I am in alignment and agreement with the one God, the one source of all things, now I have authority over all things, as Christ said. All authority is given unto me, and you will do greater things than I. That was not self-effacing, and that was not him saying, I'm less than you. That was him saying, we are going to do this together now. We are going to stand before Father on his throne, the creator of all things, the All-Father. I often see him as the white lion, and you'll hear that in my music. That's his lion form. We together are in agreement with the one God, and therefore all power, dominion, and authority is under that. So it is not a pride thing. It is a lion pride. So I'm not coming to you with an ego that says, oh, look at me, I'm so high up on the pyramid. Bow down, you slaves. No, I am saying that you need to know your place. If you are seated in high places, as you should be understanding that you are, and you have that Christed essence of his saving power, which is really washing off all of your dirty signal and your misconceptions about who and what God is, being washed clean is true. It is literal. So you have a Christed essence, you have authority because you understand who and what your authority comes from, and now everything else is under me. So this leads you now to the concept of under me. And under me is the concept from C.S. Lewis. In this book, The Silver Chair, Eustace and his friend and Puddleglum ended up in the giant's castle. And they were supposed to follow a certain path. I'm not sure I have the name right of the young man. But anyway, I keep wanting to say Diggory and Polly because I'm like backing up to the first book. But anyway, they were supposed to listen to, she specifically, the young lady, was supposed to keep saying these phrases and remember the path to get to the prince who was in the silver chair at the end of the book. And they had found some of the path, and she had remembered, and and then she got lazy and she stopped remembering. And they were waylaid, and they were up in the parapet, or up in the castle of the giants, and she looks down and she sees the words under me on the ground. And they asked the giants about this, if I'm recalling correctly, and they were told the poem. And the end of the poem said, all the world is under me. And it was a pavement that had been built like by the ancient giants. And all that was left was the word under me. Well, they found out the giants were going to eat them, make them into pie. And so they decided they were going to get the heck out of there. And they got out of there, and they were trying to get away, and it was cold and blowing, and they didn't know where they were. And the young man fell down into a hole. Well, the hole was actually the letter E. And so they all went in, and they all got out of the cold. And by happenstance, fell down the rabbit hole and ended up under me. And they ended up finding the prince. The concept being, even though she had messed up, and even though she had failed in a physical world sort of way, forgetting what she was supposed to remember, it was still orchestrated, and God's, Aslan's will was still done. They still found the prince. They still got back on the right track. They were still forgiven for being waylaid. So you, knowing your authority and knowing who is in control, is not negating your personal responsibility, nor your, man, I really fucked that up. But you don't dwell there and say, oh, that means I'm going to screw up again and again and again, and I'm just a worthless piece of garbage. No. You know who you are, that you have the capacity to stumble and fall in the proverbial E, and you're still going to get to the prince. It's going to be okay. So that keeps you humble, that you could fall. You could fall into the letter E. It also keeps you in alignment with your authority, because the higher authority is the Creator. And you are agreeing with the Creator to do His will. And I dare say that you agreed to this before you came to this physical plane. I have memories of standing before Father at a poker table and Him laying out all my poker cards, my tarot cards, or my, like, this is your life story cards, and agreeing, yes, I will do this for your will, for your glory, because I want to be in agreement with you, Father. And whatever that looks like on the physical plane does not matter in the scheme of the whole cake full of raisins. It is the flour to make the cake. If I agree, we will get to make the cake. So yes, Father, for your glory's sake, I will do what you have asked me to do. And then there is, in my opinion, the coming down or the falling from heaven, if you will, like down from the upper realms into the physical realm. There's an amnesia that happens. And when that amnesia happens, we forget the instructions that Aslan gave to Polly. We forget what we are even here for sometimes. And we don't have the whole picture. Perhaps we don't remember what bakery it was and what cake we're making and what ingredient in particular we are, the baking powder or the raisins, or that we were the platter. And our story, we discover ourselves. We remember. We resurrect in us that knowing and that gnosis as we heal through our trauma and walk through our history. And history becomes more and more and more important. And wisdom is looking at the history and gleaning from it rather than repeating the pattern. Or if the pattern repeats, knowing that that is a cyclic thing that God uses. That there's certain cycles. And that's okay. And that's good. Where am I in the cycle? Like, you go for the more, the deeper thing. So, all of us are in this crossroads right now, where there is a cake being made. There is a baker. There is a platter. There is how many layers of the cake. There is where are we, and what's our role in making the cake. And then there is the higher self. There is the seated in high places self. So in reality, you are a trinity. You are in the physical realm as a platter. You are an ingredient in the cake. And you are seated in heavenly places. You are your own 3, 6, 9. There's a trinity in every single thing. There are 3 elements, always 3. And it is a trinity. And then Father adds himself. And now you have your 4 corners of a house of... I have a house of Genevieve. Jen had a house of Jen. My house doesn't look like her house. But I have all of the... I have what was in the other house. I've inherited the house of Jen. So if I were just to say, oh, that stuff doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what Jen thought about something, it doesn't matter what any of the alters thought or experienced, I'm the new thing, and whoa, look at me, how cool I am. That'd be really disrespectful. Because I have inherited a great inheritance. I have inherited the riches of Egypt. I have inherited the wealth of the labor, sweat, blood, tears, healing, to be now the integrated cake that I am, the household of Genevieve. So, knowing who I am humbles me. Knowing what God I serve gives me authority. And the 3rd element is walking that out. And the 4th element is doing the new thing and building the new house for the next era. And right now, as I am looking at life, I see that we are at a crumbled, like Babylon has fallen status. The ashes are cold now. There's many things that are destroyed. But you have to build a bulldozer into... I don't know why this word is coming to mind, but you have to put the bulldozer through the cemetery before you can build the castle on top of the bones. You can't leave the dead guy there. You have to resurrect the bones of Ezekiel before you have an army. Well, what did that require? That required some dead guys, right? Bones were dead, dry, old, And it was time for the new army of God to come. The new cake, which had been being made the entire time, which the baker had planned, which the baker knew and was greatly pleased and said is good. So, anyhow, to wrap up that whole entire concept, know your authority and know yourself, and you will be able to face any lions. Am I saying you will not be scared or you will not have doubts? No. That's just part of the human experience and the tripping and the falling. But that doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you a bad person to have hard things going on. I am sitting here right now with the very huge realizations in my head of my vehicle is falling apart and could stop any minute. I have an incredibly painful teeth right now. I need all of my teeth. I need dental work desperately. I have needed it for about 10 years. We don't have insurance. But Father said he will give me new teeth. Do I trust him to do that? Has God ever failed to fulfill his word? Never. In a million years has he failed his word. Is always so. And his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So I trust him to provide for me my new teeth. So I do not need to go around covering up my smile and being in some sort of shame, going, well, why did I eat this or that, and why did I ruin my teeth? No, Father is not about sitting there staring into the toilet bowl and finding the guilt and the regret and looking backwards over your shoulder. He wants our joy to be full. And how is our joy full? When we have the knowing of who we are, who we serve, and then we walk out the authority of that. So there is the final piece for you. Your authority, my nose is running. Your authority is, this always happens when the Spirit comes on me, by the way. I start to get into something important and then my nose will start running. So maybe that means something for you too. Walking in your authority is literally being able to be in front of a family member, brother or sister in the Lord, or any person on the planet, king, queen, emperor, down to the janitor at the school. It does not matter who you are standing in front of. Always be ready to give a defense. Just be ready. And then he will give you what to say. You don't have to worry about it. Just speak and let it be, because you have the authority of your Father. Our Father. Whose Father? Well, Jesus' Father. Our Father. That is the authority that Jesus knew that he had. Thus why the centurion told him, you don't need to come to my house. You're a man who has authority like me. And if you say it will be done, it will be. Because he understood that Jesus was a head of a household of the house of Jesus. And that there were servants in the spiritual realm under Christ. That Jesus could say, angel so-and-so, this person heal them. Jesus didn't sit there and go, let me go heal this person. No, something, someone, some spiritual being, some hand of God did it. And this centurion knew that there was a power, an authority structure to the house of Jesus. And then Jesus continues that thought by saying, in my Father's house are many mansions. Your mansion is your cake. And within your cake, the raisins are your army, your servants, your spiritual counselors, your spiritual angel protection, your all sorts of things that you cannot comprehend or see or know. But know that you are the cake on the platter, in the bakery, with the baker, and you on your own, of you, because of who you are and God created you to be, you have authority over your household. As for me and my house, we will serve the Most High God. Joshua said that. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And he knew who he was talking about, and it was not Baal. The angel of the commander of heaven's armies had come to Joshua. He knew that that angel had been sent and was a subordinate of the Most High God. In the army, there is a commander, there is an admiral, there is a God. So this power structure, know that you are within the household of God. What raisin are you? What platter are you? What piece of the cake are you? Are you the cream? Are you the butter? Are you the cake flour? Without every single ingredient, there's no cake. So just as the hand can't look at the foot and say, I don't need you. Well, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. But the cake can't have ingredients that say we're all raisins. I'm sorry, but then you just have a pile of raisins. No, we're not all the same. Thank God we're not. I sure wouldn't want to see 6 billion copies of me walking around. Like, how boring would that be? That'd be so boring. 6 billion raisins. No, we need the flour and the sugar. Now, what good would a cake be without sugar? Wouldn't it be a cake? And if you didn't have enough flour, you'd have a pancake. So that analogy can be pretty funny. What kind of a cake is Father making with you? And what is your household and what is your authority? Is huge. And if it helps you to think of it in terms of a wedding cake, why, so be it. I think it's a beautiful word picture. And I thought of all those raisins, and I thought of all the household of Jen as a different raisins, and I thought, I have always liked carrot cake with raisins. So, I am grateful for who and what I am, and I know myself very well. And I know in whom I have believed. I know my authority. Therefore, I can bless the house of the Egebraten house. Because I am the lady of the house. I'm the queen of my own mansion. And my husband body is my king in my castle. I don't have another king in my castle. I have a high king. You know, the Narnian thing. I have a high king, Peter. I have Jesus. I have an Aslan. And I have Father, the emperor over the sea. The authority structure is in line then. Literally in line to the Father. It's aligned magnetically. It's aligned geometry in the spirit. It's aligned in the physical. And it's sitting on the golden platter. Not silver, not bronze, not pewter. No. And it isn't sitting on a bare table. It's sitting on a golden platter of a foundation that was a purification of the prophets and a purification of the soul unlike any story I could ever tell you. Because Father knows what it took to get us to this day, to be this. So, here is my little Miriam. It's time for me to go. Bless you. His face shines in you and upon you. Behold what the hand of the Lord can do. Bear witness to who and what you are and who and what he is. And we'll talk to you soon. Bless you. Bye-bye.